Okay, welcome back to Lachesis, the Atropos. I think, last time out we got Towa's true ending. So, I think this time out, we're going to do a lot of flying through the common route, so to speak. But our primary focus is going to be going all Shiki events until hopefully we hit a clearly different route for Shiki specifically. Now let's jump back in, shall we? Hello there. We're not looking for Mikami Itoha. You're not interested in that topic of discussion. Do you happen to have a relative who looks extremely similar to you? She smiled. Is this how city people flirt? Relatives, particularly close blood relatives. Most of them look similar in one way or another. If so, I don't particularly mind. Although we've only just met. I'm flattered. The next words she murmured quietly. She appeared deep in thought. I wonder if you've met my sister. Unlikely. She made a smile of certainty. Then I've got a chance, she thinks. Taking a thinking pose, she nimbly twirled round on the even ground and faced me with a shake of her head, as if coming to a conclusion. The blindfolded girl grinned. You're very pretty, detective. Don't get caught up in trouble, okay? Thank you. I had to apologize to her, as I was sure to get into some trouble, even if I preferred not to, but trouble naturally came when snooping around. Still, warm pink crawled up in my ears at this girl. She was pretty. Before I could continue to converse with her, a voice from the distance called out. Priestess, I barely made out that word. Someone was calling for her, so she once more made the motion to leave. See you around, detective? See you around. The delicate wave of her hand, she turned away and left. Ever the charmer, that girl. Now we're obviously going to linger. Given that I had taken a walk here already, I decided to linger for a few minutes more. I walked past Mikami Itoha's tombstone and took a look at those of others from the Mikami family, taking note of the dates inscribed on the stones. There's only one buried per generation. Perhaps the Mikami family used a criteria to decide who received their own plots. For example, only the eldest could have a special grave. Perhaps they simply had a thin bloodline, their name passed down painstakingly by each singular heir. I passed through the Mikami section and spotted a familiar figure from afar. The priestess. Although a townsperson had called her that, the title didn't seem fitting. As she was in the distance, I didn't bother to call out to her. To shout across a cemetery. I wouldn't be as gauche to do that. I had enough time with the dead today. I departed from the cemetery. See you, Shiki. Those are lovely boots. I don't know why I only noticed that the second time around, but they are quite nice. Another of that face, huh? Hi, Towa. Was she yet another person with that same face? When I looked closer, she had golden eyes, too. This droid doesn't feel like it matters all that much, but I suppose what do we even, what we notice first does affect, who we take more interest in, but, Mikami Itoha. I couldn't say if there was one, two, or three of this woman whom Shoko yearned for. Considering age and the relative youth of the girl in front, I conjectured the number should be a question of 2 or 3. At the front, she cut and finished. The people made a short prayer that I watched silently without participating in. Alright, we're moving on. Observing her features, I found again her similarity to Mikami Itoha, yet she also held herself in a different way than the languidness of Shoko's target. Languid, huh? It's an interesting thought, but probably not that inaccurate. Seeing her face to face, I couldn't help but question. Did we meet earlier today? She kept a neutral face. You must be confusing me with my sister. We're twins. I see. Are you both priestesses? The priestess frowned. Yes, but she's taking a break from that role. At the moment I am fulfilling most of the necessary activities. What does a priestess for this shrine do? She paused for a moment to put together an answer. We preside over the ceremonies and maintain the shrine. Keeper also takes a role in those matters, but priestesses are the closest to the power of the Stringless God. Keeper is quite clearly closer, but we don't know that yet. We only know that in hindsight. I think we haven't actually seen this cemetery scene. Yeah, we haven't. We went to the cemetery, walking down an empty path. The tree now shaded the stairs from the moonlight. Entering through the gates, I passed the general section to reach the Mikami section and stopped before the family grave. A single girl stood under the moonlight. It was the blindfolded girl. She looked to me, calmly. "Hello, detective. What are you doing here so late?" "I should ask you the same. I was just taking a walk to get a breath of fresh air." She grinned. "Fresh air? At the cemetery? Even if it's the truth, you should make up a better excuse or else people will question you." "I'm visiting my family members." She gestured to the Mikami family grave. I looked at the tombstone in silence. Moonlight shined upon the family name engraved. "The moon is bright tonight." She pouted. "I see, if that's what you say." She walked down the lane of graves, stopping at Mikami Itoha's. I followed. She smiled. "If you were to say that the moon is beautiful tonight, do you think it'd be construed as a declaration of love?" "Yeah. Soseki without a context of affection, I don't think it works. I'm not too fond of the moon as an analogy of love. It's a cold thing, a rock that only reflects the light of the sun, unable to produce its own." That's her worldview. She's just felt nothing but cold ever since waking up from her coma and traumatic injuries. So of course she'd see it that way. Such a thing can't be called love. I didn't care for the purported response of "I would die for you" either. "What do you prefer when talking about the moon?" "Madness." "Moonstruck." Would use that to describe people who see things that don't exist. Having always seen black strings, I had long lost track of reality and illusion. What madmen saw could truly exist, but did they understand their own sight? I was no psychiatrist. I only knew enough to live my life undisturbed and address the crimes of people who were unfortunately disturbed. I would use a different term. For example, cursed or blessed. At least for myself. "Do you have an interpretation of the moon you like?" She considered it. I wonder. Maybe rebirth." She gave me another smile. "The waxing and waning of the moon always repeats. The moon will always become round, whole, and shining. It disappears bit by bit within the darkness to our eyes, turning all to darkness. Yet as the sliver of white reappears and grows, before you know it, the full moon once more hangs in the sky. Isn't it romantic? It's a good motif. Do you write?" "Not really. Not recently." A small amount of resentment trickled into her smile. "Too bad humans only have one life. In the end, we all go to the ground." She kicked Mikami Itoha's plot with a hum. No one berated her for her disrespect toward the dead. She suddenly raised her brows. "Moon talk aside, am I in front of the right tombstone? Mikami Itoha's tombstone?" I barely asked about the woman, but I got the feeling that the gossip had already circulated around town about my interest in Mikami Itoha. The close-knit nature of small towns was dangerous. At least I could get away from a blind girl if I needed to. Not if she gets an axe in her hands, or an awl. "Yes. Mikami Itoha is dead." The girl frowned. "You see, that's why she has a grave here. Her body is buried beneath the ground, just like everyone else who died in the Mikami family." She smirked. "Are you convinced?" "No." The blindfolded girl looked surprised. "Why?" "I never knew Mikami Itoha, but there's still the chance that she could be alive. I'm searching to find what happened to her. I have no good reason. Not yet." "Oh. this is interesting. I wonder what this will change. Really wonder. I'm only a little paranoid. The grave's lack of strings could only be considered a small reason. I decided not to mention it to this girl, who I'd only just met yesterday. I'm only a little paranoid. I'm also just a little paranoid. It's none of my business what you get up to, is it? She spun on one foot and took a step away from me, like a cat hopping up onto its scratching tower to watch what the human would do next. Her smile disappeared. Legally speaking, she is dead. Death papers were filed when she died. Our family went through a funeral, after all. A private one, but a funeral. Complete with a casket and burial, expensive as it might seem. She smiled. We don't cremate our bodies, you see, so they go down their hole. She stepped on Mikami Itoha's grave. She made another resentful expression. But if you're feeling particularly paranoid, good luck with your investigations, detective. I'm not sure what that will change. Might as well see both now. Regardless of my own flimsy clues to Mikami Itoha's whereabouts, I had a particular feeling about the girl in front of me. You also think so. She also had some sort of grievance with the matter of Mikami Itoha. Perhaps the woman truly was dead. However, her death was possibly suspicious. If she wasn't dead, then that in itself was suspicious. Is Mikami Itoha dead? She frowned. Mikami Itoha is dead. My sight wasn't a lie detector, so I just stared at her without speaking. Then she laughed, a lilt in her voice like bells. A smile spread across her face. She stepped closer to me, placing a hand on my shoulder, and whispered into my ear, her breath tickling against my skin. If you can prove yourself to me, I'll help you out, detective. She smelled sweet. And soon enough, she backed away to her previous position. But only if you can prove yourself to me. I'll do my best then. She was friendly. At the very least, she wouldn't get in the way. That was what she indicated to me, but I couldn't understand why. She was a member of the Mikami family, the family that buried Mikami Itoha and declared her dead with a private funeral, and all the associated matters. Could I ask you why you're here again? You already have an idea why I'm here. I really did come out for a breath of fresh air, but I'd let her come to her own conclusions. Her brows furrowed, despite her smile. Good question. Then the darkness in her expression lit up. I don't want to answer. The blind girl continued to smile. She stepped on Mikami Itoha's grave. Then she yawned. Following her contagious yawn, I let out my own. She pouted. I suppose it is rather late. You should head off to bed soon. Same to you? She smiled. Of course. Good night, detective. Sweet dreams. Hell yeah, let's go out to dinner. Sure. The blindfolded girl blushed. Yay. She offered to jot down an address and time for me. Pulling out a notebook and pen for her to write, I felt her soft outstretched fingers brush against my hand. She wrote beautiful characters with their only flaw being that they had come lopsided on the lined paper. See you later. And she gave me a delicate wave and left. After my chat with her, okay, shrine time. Hello there, Toa. What happens if we doubt? Not sure. She looked a bit disappointed. You've uncovered many mysteries as a detective. What do you see in this world? I paused. It's complicated. She frowned. Oh, this is a new scene. What color's the string of hate? The priestess told me plainly. Black. Your emotions will become your own. That feels like a lie that she's been told. She frowned. I see. Peeked at her eyes, the ones I could see strings. Wonder what was reflected in her sight. How did she see humans? Were they merely bodies of lines? That's a slightly different conversation. Wonder if it's just because we've been more Shiki focused. I think that there was someone else in this world who could see what I thought of as my madness. I needed a moment to digest my findings, my brain slowing down now that our conversation had come to a lull. Glancing at the time, the priestess made to move toward the door of the shrine. I have to go inside, but you're open to follow if you'd like to. Pulling out my phone, I checked the time for myself. Oh, another appointment soon. Totally not a date. Time to go. If the person's writing could reflect their soul, what did hers reflect? She had beautiful handwriting. And here we go. Walking slowly, I arrived at a quaint little restaurant with a bell on the door that tinkled as I entered. It was Western style, with intricately embossed wooden walls and black and white checkerboard tiling. Pink heart-shaped placemats were set before every seat, and cupcake-shaped glass decorations sat on every table along with the menu. The kitchen could be seen from the dining room behind a bar. The afternoon sunlight filtered in through the white-framed, rounded, rectangular-shaped windows. The blindfolded girl sat not too far from the entrance and waved at me as I entered, gesturing for me to sit in the seat across from her. She smiled. Hello, detective. Taking a seat, I opened up the menu before me for a quick glance. How was your doctor's appointment? She responded nonchalantly. It went well. She gestured to her eyes, which were hidden behind cloth. Running my finger across the glossy laminate, I noticed that there were no textures for her to read off of. I assumed she couldn't see. Do you need help with the menu? She smiled. No, thank you, but I'm familiar with this place's menu. How was your day? It was good. I visited the shrine. The girl frowned. Was she the priestess there? Yeah. Her brows furrowed. I see. Almost feels like whatever split happened that caused Shiki to be robbed of her sight, Shiki's been kind of giving up on her future of writing to try and act against the family religion to save Toa. Well, Toa's been keeping up the responsibilities of the family religion in order to, with the implicit side goal of keeping Shiki safe. It's very clear that Toa was deceived about the true purpose of the Stringless God and what ends up happening when all your strings are cut. Toa clearly believed that she was helping people. Shiki clearly does not. The shrine is a sore point for her. The priestess is a sore point, but her sister is not. She's very clearly doing her own thing, and yet I have a feeling that she's kind of acting against the shrine for the sake of saving Toa. That's just a theory. A game theory. Those are cupcake salt and pepper shakers, and I love them. Those are adorable. Probably not the most efficient, but adorable nonetheless. As I looked over the menu, she called a waitress over to order. The blindfolded girl summoned her smile back onto her face. I'd like to order one curry katsudon. There she went, ordering without waiting for me. Scanning over the menu, I didn't have a strong preference, so chose at random, my eyes landing on a rare dish. Didn't know they served this out here. Could I get the taco rice dish? And jotting down our orders, the waitress left our table. And do you like taco rice? It's alright. That's too bad. I like ordering it sometimes, but I was in a katsu mood today. Fried food is yummy. She beamed with blush. You understand me, detective. You see, good things taste bad, but bad things taste good. Food aside, I've been meaning to ask, why Mikami Itoha? Mikami Itoha herself isn't all that relevant to me. I'm doing this for someone important to me. She can't do it herself anymore, so I have to. She cared a lot about Mikami Itoha, and I cared about her. Shoko, my mentor, my friend. I could never meet her again, but I wanted to fulfill her wish. The girl's smile had disappeared, replaced with a somber frown. I can understand the sentiment of doing dangerous things with people important to you. I'm mostly trying to keep out of danger here. She seemed to pause and think, tilting her head to the side. She smiled. I'm sure you'll be alright. I had to talk with your sister, who told me about the local religion. You're also a priestess, but I don't see you around the shrine. Could you tell me more about the Stringless God? No, I don't think I will. She smiled sadly. I'm not much of a priestess anymore. Then she frowned. I don't participate in the activities. I don't want to be involved with the shrine, and I'm blind. Can you also see strings? The blindfolded girl smiled as if I was being silly. Do you think I can see? Who knows? The waitress arrived with our orders, putting a pause to the conversation topic. We gave thanks for the food and started to eat. Itadakimasu. Although the blindfolded girl appeared dexterous around people, dancing around me when we chatted, she showed her clumsy side to me when she grasped for utensils to eat. She was a fork type of girl. I picked up my own chopsticks while watching her hands. She frowned as she started to speak. My sister, she really believes in the Stringless God. She was a fork type of girl. That kinda... I feel like... Of course, I'm not the type of person who uses chopsticks to any expert degree or on a regular basis, but I feel like that sort of thing requires efficient chopsticks usage. I feel like that requires a certain level of hand-eye coordination that would be difficult without eyesight. So, maybe not impossible. I can't speak for that. I cannot speak for that, but I just a gut feeling. I may be entirely off base. If so, I apologize, but if I'm anywhere near reasonable, then that's a neat detail. My sister, she really believes in the Stringless God. It's complicated. Mikami family is deeply intertwined with the shrine, so you'll find out a lot about both if you keep looking into Mikami Itoha. The girl twisted her lips up into her usual smile. But I can't really answer your questions. She took a bite of her food. You've got a bit of sauce on your lip. She pouted and blushed. Pink tongue darted out to lick the side of her mouth. Did I get it? Yeah. She smiled with relief. We ended up talking about food, such as how a Tex-Mex Okinawan dish ended up on the menu here in the mountains, and why curry went well with tonkatsu. Before I knew it, was finished eating. Night had fallen outside. Going to the counter to pay, the blindfold girl started to take her wallet out. She grinned. My treat. No, let me pay. She pouted. I invited you for dinner, so I'll pay. I can pay. The girl smiled defiantly. Nope. Take me out on a date next time if you want to treat me to something. Just kidding. If I have a chance, then. I ignored the expression of the person at the counter. She blushed with a pout. I look forward to it, detective. Leaving the restaurant, we walked down the same path from a distance. However, as her home and my lodgings were in opposite directions, we later split. That is still cute. I love them. It is very cute seeing the playful Toa, the playful Shiki, teasing it up with Mana. It's also very wholesomely cute seeing Toa come out of her shell with Mana, but... Alright. Save us, Shiki. Why so jumpy, detective? The blindfolded girl looked at me curiously. Quickly peeked behind me, seeing nothing much to my relief. I thought I bumped into a wild animal or something of the sort. A wild animal? That monster was nowhere close to a wild animal. She frowned. A wild animal? It was nothing. Are you having a nighttime walk? I suppose I am. She smiled. My sister likes taking walks in this forest. You're close to your family. The girl grinned dryly. Nope, not at all. I had an older sister who I didn't care for in the slightest, and my father wasn't much to talk about either. Yasunobu and Mikami Itoha. Her wry grin faded into a frown. Mikami Itoha is our older sister. She was our father's eldest daughter, and we were his younger twin daughters. And there was that kind of bizarre revelation dropped in the Toa ending 1. That, like, Mikami Yasunobu did some really fucked up shit. That means that I haven't posted that part yet, so I don't know if you read that the same way I did. Well, that part will obviously be up by the time this part gets up for you to see, but... What's your father's name? The girl spoke with a blank look on her face. Mikami Yasunobu. Yep. And just like that. I swear I remember there being more to that scene, but I may have been wrong. I love you, so why can't you understand? Thinking I should call out to them, I found my words lost in my tongue, with the realization that I didn't know their names. Oops, we've flirted with each other and been on dates, so, Mikami, was that all I knew? Detective, the blindfolded girl called out to me. Both their faces turned toward me, swiveling in such unison that I nearly lost my balance. The power of cute girls. The priestess's grip on her sister loosened, allowing the blindfolded girl to free her hand with a sharp shake. The blindfolded girl then dashed toward me. She slipped behind me, tugging on my jacket sleeve, and placed me as a shield between her and her sister. Oh, uh-oh. Walking toward us, the priestess's shoulders deflated. If... Her eyes met mine. I felt the grip on my sleeve strengthen, my arm pulled back with a jerk. That movement, the priestess seemed to stare through my body. Her sister fidgeted behind my back, all the while not letting go of my sleeve. Looks like we've chosen our side here. I feel like this scene, my first playthrough, Shiki willingly left. Unable to form the correct words, the priestess shook her head and looked down to the ground. I have to get ready. She left. Whatever she wanted to say, left unsaid. Once the priestess entered the shrine building, the blindfolded girl finally let go of my sleeve and circled around me to my front. Her expression relaxed. Thank you, detective. She didn't seem to want to talk about her sister and switched gears immediately. She smiled. Coming here to watch. Yeah. Keeper invited me. She mentioned that a purification ritual was taking place today. Maybe you'll find something interesting. These things you do have to see to understand. Purification, the cutting of the last string. Her voice dropped off. Then, as if nothing had happened, she made a motion that caused her skirt to twirl, and let out a soft laugh like a bell. You're so diligent, detective. She blushed. I like it. Wow, it skipped a beat. Was I really that weak to praise? From cute girls? Yes. Now is as good a time to ask as any. What's your name? We've been on a date, but I don't know your name. It's awkward. Such is the power of cute girls. Shiki. Just call me Shiki. Shiki? Mm-hmm. Before long, people began to gather. Shiki slipped away. Hello, Keeper. Keeper appeared at the front. Oh. Got it. Okay. We have a very strong reaction to the first cutting here. our eye is very in tune to the true nature of the monsters being created here. Maybe that's a matter of we didn't get this eye from the Stringless God. Maybe we did. It's like, I feel like it was also implied that the person who attacked Mana was a stringless monster to some degree. From here. No, maybe that's related, but maybe it wasn't given directly by the Stringless God. It's more a matter of like a Myogi Shiki kind of thing, where the trauma you went through, waking up from a coma after the fact, you develop this unusual power. Buzzing noise pierced my eardrums. I gasped. I didn't gasp. Cut. Detective? Detective? I felt a pair of delicate hands atop my shoulders, shaking me. My vision gradually cleared. Shiki! She was very, very close, right up in my face. I could smell her pleasant shampoo as her hair tickled against my cheeks. Oh gosh, she was frowning with concern. Revived by the power of cute girls. Rapidly blinking, I backed away to regain my sense of space, only to lightly bump my head against rough bark. Once my hand touched the structure I leaned against, I remembered I was under a tree. And the sounds beyond us had seen the gathering had entered the socializing phase already. It was already closing up. Shiki smiled. Whew, you're still alive. How much time had passed? What was I doing again? What's wrong? Shiki started to become embarrassed. Realizing that her nose was nearly touching mine, she backed away with a hop. A blush painted her cheeks. You weren't moving for a while. Stepping side to side for a moment, long hair swaying, she cocked her head to the side. She seemed to have made a decision. Then, gesturing with a mock bow as if welcoming me into a secret, she whispered a name. Mikami Itoha. Her whisper was so quiet that it did not reach my ears. However, I could read her lips as she enunciated clearly the syllables of my target's name. Shiki grinned. I'll help you with your investigations on that woman. Speaking slowly, she became my comrade in this case. Yeah! The ceremony dances in 3 days. Most people attend even if they don't come to the regular meetings. It's a good chance to go places without others noticing. She leaned in close, breath tickling against my ear. Hadn't you been wondering about her grave? Reaching out a hand, she tugged at my jacket sleeve and began to lead me away from the shrine. Oh. As we walked down the shrine stairs, the sound of the gathering faded into the distance. We found ourselves on the rural path. Shiki spoke so very casually, her usual smile not on her face. So, let's dig it up. What? Let's dig up Mikami Itoha's grave. Oh! I blinked once, twice. Shiki didn't change her expression or laugh with that tinkle in her voice. To say she was joking. Certainly, I had questioned to myself the presence of the body. The grave was stringless. I could not ascertain whether or not Mikami Itoha was buried as if claimed. If we could uncover a body, then my question would be answered. Shiki grinned mischievously. The land is owned by the Mikami family, so you wouldn't get in trouble. For all that matters, I am the one digging up my so-called oldest sister's grave. However, this was a bit extreme. Why would she want to? A thread-cutting sword dance is always performed in the evening to emphasize light in the darkness. Shiki's expression turned more serious. That means the visibility will be poor because of the darkness. Poor for both of us and anyone who might see. It depends on if the moon is bright or not, but we shouldn't have any problems identifying where to dig. I'll provide the shovel for digging. The grave is less than 1 meter deep. I've moistened the soil, so it shouldn't be terribly hard. You thought a lot about this. Shiki smiled. Won't you help me, detective? Shiki made her argument with a loose smile. Don't you want to solve this case? What is Mikami Itoha? The photo I had of Shoko at my target burned in my inner pocket. Were they happy back then? Was Mikami Itoha so important to Shoko? I didn't know anything about the present, whereas Shoko was dead despite longing for that woman. I decided to trust Shiki. Look forward to working with you. Gazing into the strip of black cloth that covered her eyes, I asked a question that only a priestess could answer. My eyes weren't enough. I could only see the black strings. Does Mikami Itoha's grave have strings? She paused. Her smile left her. No. Shiki's brows furrowed in resentment. Doesn't have strings. That woman never had strings. From the earliest moment I could remember, she didn't have strings. I used to be a priestess. Shiki sneered. I have absolutely no interest anymore, so don't call me a priestess. It's rotten. The Stringless God. Rather than cutting strings, I would rather tie them together. She frowned. I'm sure my sister has explained it. She gave me the general gist. In order for humans to reach true freedom, their strings must be cut, which is the blessing of the Stringless God. I didn't buy it. Strings are the relationships between people. Hatred and disgust, love and yearning, everything you could ever think of. Shiki smiled sadly for a moment. My sister and I can see the strings of the world. We can see all of them in every color. We were born with eyes like that and bodies with the power to touch and cut those lines that to most of the people don't exist. Mikami family has always been deeply intertwined with the Stringless God's following. So they're just like... So the Stringless God's following is bigger than just the Mikamis. We became priestesses engaged in cutting, purging the false lines. Yet we can only see the strings, and we believed in the Stringless God's sayings blindly. Shiki became more upset. Even if it is freedom to have them cut, they're just how the world works, so aren't they simply human relationships? Even if what we see, what we have are only fake emotions. She grinned wryly. I suppose I can't quite see anymore. She gestured over her hidden eyes. What do you see, detective? What do you mean? Her fingers ran through the air until they touched a black string. Running her index finger along it, she grabbed it and yanked, sending vibrations along the thin darkness. Don't play dumb. Without a doubt, she had figured me out. I mean, you did kind of just throw that... Although I suppose that is a fair enough question to ask, but... I see them too. My sight is much more limited than yours, but I've always been able to see strings as well. They're black, and I've never been able to touch them. Black strings of hate. I hadn't told anyone about what I could see since childhood. I haven't even told Shoko, my mentor, my partner, my friend. Shiki nodded, taking in my words. Her brows furrowed with sadness. Do you think that this world is beautiful? Beautiful? I saw the world crisscrossed with darkness. Realizing that I had lost my only companion with Shoko's departure, I wondered. I think it should be. If this world wasn't beautiful, I would be sad. Do you think that this world is beautiful, Shiki? Her smile disappeared, replaced with a lost look. I don't know. And she smiled again, and blushed. I'm glad you see the world through such a kind lens. I'm just a private investigator. Anyway, how should I contact you? Would you prefer to exchange phone numbers or Lime? I took out my cell phone, tapping over my contacts and that green messaging app. Lime? Shiki pouted. Don't have a phone. Let's keep in touch in person instead. Meet me at the cemetery tomorrow morning, okay? I tucked my phone back into my pocket. What time? She smiled. 10 in the morning. Sure. Nodding at my agreement, she gave me a little wave. See you tomorrow, detective. See ya. The rest of the day passed without anything of note. Once I crawled into bed, I fell asleep quickly as usual. Then I began to dream again. I returned to the city of Tato. Yet this is all new. Unlike usual, the strings of all colors ran from edge to edge of my vision, but no people were around. I walked, turning my head back and forth to find the origin of the strings. Then I got stabbed. I recognized the presence. Ow? Stab. I actually heard, even though this was a dream, another version of the same old dream. Stab. Vision flickered. Like a light going out on a thin, thin candle, the dream ended. I bolted up in the futon, throwing the covers to the side, and hurriedly grasped my chest, the place that still hurt as if it had cracked open. Upon sticking my hand through the gap in my pajamas, I touched my skin and found only the roughness of scars with none of the wetness of blood. Most it was the sweat from my own palms. Feeling the sunlight filter into my room, I noticed that it was morning. Somehow, in spite of the tumultuous nature of that sleep cycle, I somehow managed to sleep the whole night. That was rare. I stumbled to my feet, grabbing my phone from where I was charging to check the time. In fact, I had overslept. Oopsies. Groggily ignoring my poor appearance in the mirror, I went through a morning routine not worth mentioning and went to the cemetery. Shiki was there, in her usual garb. Good morning, detective. She smiled. Somehow I feel a little sigh that you're spending so much time at the cemetery. I did come here on vacation. Shiki gasped. Really? At least partially. Kinda trip for recuperation. Forced break from my career due to health reasons, which gave me the chance to come here. Where did my vacation go again? Shiki grinned. Had you heard of the healing hot springs? Are they really that famous? I was under the assumption that every place tacked on something like that to their advertisements. Maybe. A sickly detective here to enjoy the healing hot springs, only to find herself entangled in the mystery of a dead woman. Shiki summarized my situation with a serious expression, like the narrator of her movie trailer. In a world. Something like that? Close enough. In a world crisscrossed by strings of various colors. Sickly, huh? I was in the hospital for a long time this year. Shiki's smile disappeared. I was assaulted on the streets by someone. It didn't end nicely. For me, I mean. Coma for a few weeks, followed by months of physical therapy. But before you know it, a year's gone by, but the aftermath doesn't just go away. It's probably what you might call being forced to take a break. Shiki's brows furrowed. Did that have something to do with Mikami Itoha? The person who attacked me is from this town, but as far as I can tell, he has nothing to do with Mikami Itoha. At the very least, my reasons for investigating her have nothing to do with him. I mentioned before that I'm doing all this for someone I care about, but I didn't tell you anything about her. That's eerily coincidental. That is bizarrely coincidental. Concerningly coincidental. I had a partner as a private investigator. She was my mentor and friend, a very important person to me. Her name was Shoko. She passed away. Is it almost 2 years ago? She was the one who cared about Mikami Itoha. Never met the woman in my life, but for Shoko, Mikami Itoha was the person she loved? Oh, so she was? Someone she couldn't forget, even after leaving this town. Even though Shoko stayed in the city with me and never returned here. According to her, Mikami Itoha went missing 5 years ago. She told me that her biggest regret was not finding out what happened. I remembered sitting in the chair next to her hospital bed, holding her hand that had become so weak. She had laughed, the low laugh that made her throat vibrate in a funny way, and reassured me that she would be all right. We still had more cases to take on, after all. But even she didn't believe her own words. She lamented at that time, in that place filled with sterile white. If only she could have met Itoha again. We never did take on that case. One day I'll die. If I die, then no one can resolve her regret. So I have to try at least a little bit and tell her what happened. Even if I can't find out the entire truth. Suddenly warmth wrapped around my fingers. Shiki took my hand and squeezed reassuringly. She smiled at me. You can do it, detective. She loosened her grip and let go of my hand, pausing in silence for a moment. Just casually shouting out that Mana has been way more forthcoming with Shiki than she was with Toa. Although, to be fair, it's Shiki. There's anyone who would make you feel comfortable enough to open up. It's Shiki. To think that even Mikami Itoha had someone who cared about her. Was she that unlikable? No. There wasn't enough to dislike. She rarely interacted with other people, only talking with our father and Keeper. Even then she seemed to only talk to Keeper. What were we? Shiki shook her head. Your Shoko can never have Mikami Itoha back. No matter what you find, Mikami Itoha as a human being will already be dead. You see, humans only die once. What do you mean? Shiki smiled wryly. The Mikami family held a private funeral for her. Sounds like it might have just fabricated her death, right? And doctors can, in fact, be bribed. We didn't bribe anyone. As someone who was at that funeral, I can say without a doubt that she died. Her body never became rigid or began to rot during that time, but she died. As if Sleeping Beauty, she was still. Her heart stopped with her breathing. It wasn't for a short period of time that you'd be able to zap her and revive her with a defibrillator. Shiki's expression turned darker. Okay, so you know more about this than you were led on initially. It was long enough that her body became ice cold, long enough for brain death. And that means she should be dead. Shiki made a dry smile. But that also means you have reason to doubt that, right? Let me clarify the question you should ask. It's not whether or not Mikami Itoha died. It's whether or not she is dead. Whether or not she's missing. You're saying that you think she's some sort of monster? Yep. That's why all we have to do is dig up the corpse. If it's buried down there, then I'll still help you with the information on her death. If it's not buried down there, you're going to need to help me. Shiki frowned. I did watch her coffin get lowered in myself, but it was before this happened. She made a slashing gesture with her hand over her eyes. You see, Mikami Itoha is the Holy Maiden. Keeper called her that. What does that mean? Shiki smiled helplessly for a moment. I don't know. All they did was cut strings, Detective. Priestesses, they aren't actually that important. Not as precious as the Stringless God's maiden. You were never so important. After the conversation at the cemetery, we parted for lunch and regrouped at the shrine. Well, that was a lot to take in. To my surprise, a number of townspeople had gathered. Counting against the group from the past two gatherings, I found less people here. There's less people here than usual. It's a purification day. She pointed to one person. The woman was stringless to me, unnerving without a line of darkness connected to her body. However, had Shiki not singled the woman out, I wouldn't have noticed. Other people's black strings passed before and behind her body. Let's go inside. Noticing me wandering towards the audience, Shiki tugged at my sleeve. No. In we get. We went to the door of the shrine and entered, walking through a hallway to a room with the shrine altar as well as the priestess. Daylight cast squares of light onto the light-colored interior through the window's washi paper. A small incline of steps led up to an altar with a candle inside. The area of the steps that led up to the altar was flanked by wooden railings and two tall stone lanterns. An opaque Fusuma sliding door was at the other end of the room. The priestess looked at us, confused. Shiki, and... You know the purification is happening right now. I can't delay. Shiki smiled. I can wait. Priestess frowned. I'll talk to you after this. The priestess hurriedly walked out of the room. It usually doesn't take very long. At least not long enough to have a sensitive conversation. She leaned in and whispered. She spoke to me seriously, the smile gone. If you have a chance, you should take a look around. You're good at this. She pretended to smile ignorantly. Good at what, Detective? We waited a while. Just as Shiki mentioned, the priestess returned soon enough. Two of them exited the room to the hallway, their footsteps eventually fading into the distance then, as they left to have a private conversation. I wandered around the room and found nothing out of place. What's the point of lighting a candle during the day? As I squatted in front of the shrine altar where a lit candle was placed, I heard footsteps followed by the door opening. I stood back up. Oh, townsperson, the one without black strings, entered the room silently. The candle flickered. Hello. The person didn't respond. Then the air warped. Whoop! Like an angel up there. Countdown 0, swiggity swooty, time to delete your booty. She collapsed with a thud, face smashing into the ground in a way that someone's feigning wouldn't. I heard a crack like the sound of cartilage. Eh? What? I hurried over to check whether she was all right, crouching next to her with my worry increasing by the second as she failed to make any moans or groans. Rolling her body over to lay her flat on her back, I checked for her pulse and breathing. Neither was present. Was this a heart attack or some sort of stroke? Nitroglycerin, nitroglycerin. Knowing the part of my mind that was panicking over the woman dead or dying, reached in my pocket to get my phone. The best course of action was to call emergency services. I stumbled back, falling on my butt. Fingers sweeping against the floor as I shakily backed away. I felt nausea build up in my throat. Buzzing filled my ears. For a fraction of a second, I saw an angel. Oh, here we go. Then something began to change throughout the woman prone to the floor. Her body twitched, convulsing at the chest once, twice, thrice. She seemed to rise. The tears make me feel like she's still somewhat conscious during this. Tiny darkness broke through her flesh, tearing out of her like a creature born from an incredibly soft egg. It was hatching. A monster. Dripping darkness crawled out of its egg and was born. Its eyes were red, its tongue was red, its egg was red, its teeth were sharp. All went black. When I opened my eyes, I saw Shiki. Shiki, what the fuck? My head rested on her lap. The sweetness of her shampoo tickled my nose as she leaned over to me for a moment, causing me to shift. She smiled at me with concern. Hello, detective. Are you prone to fainting? I rolled off, getting up with wobbly legs. No, it's not normal. What happened? A dull pain throbbed in my temples as images began filtering back into my mind from before I lost consciousness. The purified person, is she alright? What happened to her? Shiki was a little bewildered. She's fine. Nothing happened. You collapsed in the shrine room. Did you hit your head? No, she fell over and stopped breathing. I was going to call 119, and then my breath hitched in my throat. Shiki started to appear as if she had doubted my sanity. Are you sure? Nothing happened. There's no way I saw it happen. I just talked to her with Keeper and my sister. She's fine. There was no way. Blinked slowly at Shiki as the fragmented memories of darkness bursting from a human body sharpened. Even though she turned into a monster? My hand shook. Detective, are you all right? Insist. I'm not crazy. If she didn't turn into a monster, she clearly collapsed. She wasn't breathing and her heart stopped. She cracked her nose while falling down, and I saw when I rolled her onto her back. Shiki smiled nervously. I'm sorry, Detective, but are you sure you didn't hit your head? Sorry. It was fine. I didn't need her to believe me. I stood around for a little while longer without speaking. Like a fleeting nightmare, the image of the monster became blurrier in my mind. Then my stomach growled. Shiki smiled. We went out for dinner together and started back home. She accompanied me all the way to the entrance of the inn. Night had fallen. The shoji were lit up by the lights inside the inn. As I put my hand on the door, I turned to Shiki, who still hadn't left. You aren't going home? Shiki made a pleading face. Could I stay the night with you? She tugged my sleeve. I'm alright with it, but I don't know if we can trouble the innkeeper for that. We entered the inn together, perhaps an unexpected sight for the innkeeper who came to greet us. Welcome back. Oh my. Shiki smiled. Good evening. With magic on her tongue, Shiki explained her request, and after a few exchanges and nods, received the innkeeper's approval. You're certainly welcome to stay while she's here. I'm glad you two have become friends. You remind me of Shoko and Itoha. Thank you. Let me lead you to the room. The innkeeper led the two of us to my room and quickly adjusted it for 2 people before bowing out the door. Please enjoy and let me know if there are any problems. The sound of the door closing, we were alone again. Shiki made herself comfortable on the tatami, running her hands along the ground. What's your family like? It's not very interesting. I'm an only child. My father was a very career-oriented man. My mother was his housewife. I don't think they originally planned to have children. I don't get along too well with my parents. We aren't in contact. Both pairs of grandparents died before I was born, so I never met them. There aren't any aunts or uncles involved either, so I say I mostly live by myself. My family was myself. What are your parents like? Shiki frowned. My father was a businessman and the head of the shrine. She laughed. He was probably old enough to be my grandfather, so it was strange to see other people's parents so much younger than him. My mother. She considered how to put things. Probably a delicate matter if the previous thoughts we had about the Holy Maiden in Towa's path are anywhere near accurate. I don't know. Shiki frowned deeper. Keeper's a lot like one, controlling people, controlling finances, and giving love to make people do things. I still think that Keeper might have been Yasunobu's wife. In some way. Shiki smiled. I have a lot of dead people in my immediate family, but it doesn't really matter because only my sister matters. After lounging on the tatami for a while longer, we went to the shower separately. One thing led to another, and I found myself entering the hot springs with Shiki. Even though she couldn't see, as soon as I entered the water, I submerged myself up to my shoulders. Instinct being instinct. Splash! Why the rush to get in the water? She walked in toward the pool, dipping a foot into the water. Seeing her naked ankle, I quickly looked away, heat rising to my ears, not just from the hot springs. Moving close to me after getting in the hot springs, she let out a sigh of content. Then she cupped her hands in the water and squished her palms together. A squirt of water flew out into the air. Oh, I missed, didn't I? Yes. The nervousness I had noticed instantly flew away. Instead of trying again with a 2-handed water gun, she directly paddled the water at me, making little waves that lapped against my arm. We definitely couldn't do this in a public bath. I retaliated, splashing water at her as well. You've just declared war on me, detective. Take this. She swept her hands under the water and sent a big wave my way. Splash! I liked the sound of her laughter very much. After we finished playing, she put her arms against the stones and let her hair float in the water above her back. I also leaned back against the stones, melting like jelly. Why did you become a private investigator? Why? Being able to see black streaks made it a convenient choice. It gives me an edge over other people for crimes with hate-based motives. That sounds stressful. Shoko made it work. I guess I was also inspired by her to become a private investigator. Shoko is really important, huh? How did you meet her? It's the long story. I have time right now. I gave Shiki a summary of the time I was in high school. At the time I happened to meet Shoko at a crime scene where she introduced herself as a private investigator. I was a loner. I was dealing with a stalker problem and had no friends to go to. I couldn't figure it out myself, and the police weren't able to help, so I went to her. Snap! And just like that, she solved the case. After that, I poked my nose into the private investigator business of hers and joined the office. I wish I could meet you from back then. I was a broody teenager. Is there a career you're chasing after? She rolled around in the water. A career? I suppose I had been thinking about the future these days. I wanted to be a novelist. What genre? Maybe something science fiction, science fantasy. The genre's not that important. I didn't need it to sell, so whether or not it was well-defined genre terms or marketable wasn't on my mind. I just liked writing. Did you want to self-publish? Money always finds a way. Towa said she would draw for her books. Oh, Towa does art? Book on the bookshelves. A colorful cover. Our names together. Shiki and Towa. Work that's just ours. For us and no one else. didn't really have many criteria. Only that it has to have a happy ending. No matter how much the character struggled or cried, they had to have a happy ending. I used to think about that a lot. Toa. Toa is the name of my sister. Isn't it a good name? It is. Also thought Shiki was a good name. I don't think we'll ever make that book, though. She doesn't draw anymore either. You really love your sister. Of course. She splashed a little water at me, rubbing her fingers together. She seemed to notice something, so I copied her action. Put in the water for long enough that our skin began to wrinkle. Wrinkly, wrinkly. Sufficiently pruned and... sufficiently pruny and turned to noodles, we exited the hot springs. For drying our hair with a hairdryer, we slipped into the futons that had been laid right next to each other by the innkeeper. Good night, Shiki. Good night. I didn't dream, and I slept terribly comfortably. It was warm. Ooh. Ooh, hello, Toa. We will save this discussion for next time. Looks like next time is going to be the, if we go vaguely in terms of the length thus far. Feels like next time is going to be the point where we reach an ending. We can probably cover the remaining endings we haven't seen yet, to some degree. Whatever might come after the fact. So until then...